Hi, this is Gerald Gardner. I live here in Plattsburgh, New York. This is Lake Champlain behind me, and I want to be on Faceoff.
I live here with my girlfriend Katina, her kids Ari, Raina, and Rory, and I have two children of my own, Paige and Dylan. Having a family this size really cuts into my budget a little bit, which forces me to have to improvise.
This is SUNY Plattsburgh. This is where I went to school. And this is my sculpture. It's probably one of the biggest ones I ever did. Ended up being a 13-part mold that I ended up casting in bronze, and I welded it all back together.
Prior to going to college, I did all kinds of artwork ranging from drawing and painting to tattooing and graphic design work. But when I got to college, I discovered sculpture. It really grabbed me. I like being able to work with clay and wax and modeling things with my hands and being able to transition that into different materials later on. After graduating college, I continued to work on sculpture. Unfortunately, I can no longer afford to pour bronze because I lack a foundry, and foundry costs are extremely high. So I've begun to work in other materials, one of which is ceramic. This is the piece that I'm currently working on. It's going to be acrylic painted ceramic when it's finished. You can see there's a few hairline fractures in it from the firing process that I applied patches to. I'm not worried about those. The paint's going to cover it, so it'll look good when it's done. As far as makeup goes, I'm pretty new at it. I started watching the show with the kids and realized that I had a lot of the skill sets required for it. I could sculpt, I could make molds, I could paint. I've done all these things individually, but I've never actually put them together into makeup design. And the kids really liked the show and decided that they wanted me to try it out by making them some Halloween costumes. I'm on a tight budget. I couldn't afford to go out and get a professional kit to make a costume for my kids. So I looked at the materials that I had left over from sculpture and from painting, and I had silicone for mold making, I had plaster, I had acrylic paints, I had oil paints, my airbrush, and I figured I could improvise all these things together to come up with a decent makeup. None of these materials were ideal. The silicone that I had was for mold making. It was pre-dyed white, so I couldn't take advantage of some of the translucent effects that you can get out of silicone, which I really wish I could have. Also, it's far less elastic than other types of silicone, so there was more problems with motion in the face and stuff like that that I really like to do better on, but given the material, it came out quite well. Probably the biggest hurdle that I've encountered being self-taught with makeup is learning how to paint silicone. I've used silicone in the past for sculpture, but I've always used it as a mold making material, never a finished product, so I've never actually had to paint it. After a few failed attempts, I finally came upon the process of thinning down silicone caulk, adding pigment into it with oil colors, and then painting it that way, which has provided some moderate success. Again, it's not ideal, but it worked out well. This is my son Dylan with his black eyes. Dylan wanted to be a creepy looking alien bug thingy, so that's what we're working on now. I think I got some disadvantages going into the competition, primarily being that I'm very new to makeup. A lot of the product names are going to be pretty unfamiliar to me. Most of the materials are similar to materials that I've used before, though I've never actually used foams. I've used latex, I've used all kinds of casting materials, so I think I can deal with that. I also think I have some advantages going into the show. I have a lot of experience in a wide variety of art. I've worked in commercial design, I've worked in fine arts, I've worked a wide variety of different materials and styles. Each of these things has allowed me to focus intently on the individual aspects that come into play in makeup design. Paintings allowed me to build up a pretty strong color palette. Sculpture focused almost entirely on form, and tattooing is extremely detail oriented. Working in a commercial setting brings some important lessons as well. When you're working in a commercial setting, be it tattooing or graphic design or whatever, you always have a deadline that you have to work with. And probably the bigger lesson is that when you're working with a customer, in this case the judges, there's a fine line that you have to balance. And that is how much you can do as an artist without cutting into what the customer is expecting for a product. Most of the people that I've seen eliminated were eliminated for something along those lines. They either didn't produce enough or they got overzealous with their artistic desires and totally pushed out what the judges were expecting to see. My fine arts training, I think, will be relevant to the show as well. And the reason is because in fine art, I've always tried to push a narrative into my work and really build the work around a story. And one thing I find fascinating with the makeup design is that the story already exists, and that's your movie. Everything you do in your artwork should reflect back and enhance that narrative that's already there. Good abstractions in artwork are very similar to makeup design in movies. And the reason is because they always relate back to the larger body of work. And they're there to enhance the narrative, enhance the emotional content, or in some way enhance the conceptual elements within the work. And I think that plays out well in the show because you have to be able to validate the work that you're doing. And I think that's one area that my fine arts training will really come into play. In conclusion, I know I'm an amateur, but I think that my past experiences will have a really good crossover effect and possibly make me a good contender on the show. Thank you for watching the video. Hope you have a great day.